Hey everybody, Skeet Reese here. This gentleman to my right is without a doubt the hottest fisherman on the planet, Jacob Wheeler. Welcome, Jacob.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. I shoot, that's a lot coming from the man. Skeet, that's some guys that won so many dang derbies in a row. I still gotta learn how to win like 3 or 4. What was it, 3 in a row or something crazy, or 2 or 3 in a row, and you won 4 in a year or something crazy. I don't. So I know I got a long way to go. I might caught a couple bass, but I still got a long ways to go.
No, I don't think you have a long ways to go. You're doing it faster than most have ever done it in their careers out here. Anyways, I want to say thanks for coming out, hanging with me. This is non-dock talk, so we're not here really to talk about fishing as much because, you know what, we're still competitors.
Yep.
I'm still out there trying to whoop on you. You're still trying to beat the old man down here. You know, I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a student of the sport. So I've been around this a long time, and I've got to see trends. I got to see anglers come and go. And definitely there's, without a doubt, in the last 5 years, you've made a reputation for yourself. You've set a bar that now everybody else is trying to achieve. So, and I can understand it, I can relate it. I think Kevin can relate to it. You know, we've both been there. It's a great feeling, and it seems easy.
It does. When everything goes right, it's
so
just like
easy.
you're just like, yeah, you just go out there and you throw that topwater over there on that grass and you catch a bass. It's not a big deal, you know. And I know it's not that easy, but it just like there's certain tournaments that are that way.
It goes that way, and
does.
I totally understand that. You took it to a whole new level from an electronic standpoint, and I'm wondering, like, I'm curious on what made you really get engaged with the electronics and embrace it on an offshore deal.
So like for me, like it's a big deal, like to be able to, like, there's so many great electronics companies out there, and they all have their main highlights of what they're really good at, and some of them are good at multiple things, some of them are good at 2 or 3 things. And so like for me, you know, this year, going into the year, I wanted to run everything that was good, you know. And that's, I mean, in my mind, there's 3 major brands that stand out. That's Lowrance, that's Humminbird, and that's Garmin. You know, Garmin has live sight or live scope, and then Lowrance has, you know, great mapping. They have great 2D. Even their side scan, I'm so used to it, and down scan, I'm so used to it that I know, and in my Waypoint management system that I use, I know a Lowrance system like in the back of my mind. I have hundreds of thousands of, thousands of, for sure, probably tens of thousands of waypoints that I have in my mind where I've had, you know, lay down tree and different types of trees and like places that I enjoy graphing. And I enjoy, like, for me, I enjoy finding place, like when I go back to the house in Chickamauga in the summertime, I enjoy going out there and just finding a place with 3 bass on it that I didn't know about, rather than sit on a school of them that there's 100 of them there. And that's so intriguing to me, to try to find fish. Like at first it was always like I want to catch them, but then once you figure out how to catch them, it's like, man, it's a lot harder to find them and then do that. So then I started playing with that last fall on my aluminum boat, my Triton aluminum. And so I was like, man, I felt like all of them had, you know, you have Humminbird has a great mapping, has a 360, and trying to figure it out. And the biggest thing is trying to get all the interference and everything out of them. But man, I just think it was just something for me that I also felt like it, you know, with YouTube and professional fishermen, we try to be, we sometimes can come off fake. And I feel like we have to be more real. And I think that gives me an opportunity to be like, listen, like, I can talk about this, you know, and I'm in a position now with so many great companies I work with, and I'm sure you're the same way. It's like I can talk to you guys about really what I feel is right and what's wrong and whatever. So I think that was my biggest decision on the whole thing.
All right, well, obviously you become a master of using your electronics offshore, finding fish, locating fish, catching fish. But you just made a comment that it registered with me, so waypoint management. So what do you mean by waypoint management? I'm curious, like, do you identify each icon with a certain look, or if it's a tree, do you put a tree, do you label it? How do you manage?
So you know, cool thing with Lowrance is it's probably the easiest in my mind to manage my waypoints, because I can go, like, you know, by region and by lake, and I have an individual, and I have backups on my computers and backups places, which most of us do, you know, and that's so good about it. But then the icons are so easy to utilize. So for me, like, it's like, I'll have it to where I have rock that's pea gravel rock, a hard spot, I have it towards like chunk rock. I have an icon for chunk rock. I have a chunk rock icon for larger chunk rock. I have an icon for boulder. I have an icon. So you do. All right. So I have icons. I have icons for small schools of fish. I have icons for bigger largemouth that I feel like were on the graph that I marked like 2 or 3 fish. I'm pretty sure those were largemouth, like bigger marks, and like, so I have icons in my mind so where I see something and I'm like,
all right, so I mean, we're down here at Lake Okeechobee getting ready for the Bass Pro Tour here. Big pond, a long way from Indiana. How did a kid from Indiana become the hottest bass angler in the country right now?
Man, shoot. It's sort of crazy because Indiana is not well known.
I know, because that's what I was like.
At all. Like,
yeah, it's not like you grew up around in
Alabama or like California or like Florida or Texas. No, and that's what's so crazy is like when I just, you know what's so crazy about this whole deal? It's like I've always known that's what I was gonna do. Like, dude, I mean, like from 2nd grade crew day, I was a professional bass fisherman in 2nd grade. Like, that's what I was gonna be. Like, there was no other thing for me. That was it. That was it from the start of when I seen it, watched on TV, watched you guys, and watched like you guys coming up, killing it. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Whether people wanted to be a basketball player, a football player, like I put every ounce of energy that I possibly could into bass fishing. Now, on top of that, I had a lot of people that gave me so many great opportunities, like that I would never have been able to make it happen. Like I had borrowed boats where I fished a BFL and won a tournament, and you know batteries weren't working, just just the typical stuff. Sleep in your truck, at the ramp. It's just part of it.
Yeah, I'll say it's the same process.
And there's a lot you have to endure. But I had a lot of good breaks, and ultimately winning the All-American was the biggest one for me.
Do you feel like that was your turning point?
100%. I don't think I would be sitting here right now if I didn't win the All-American. I feel like that was the opportunity I was 20 years old, and I won the All-American, and it was weird because I just felt like I was going to win. It was weird. I was overly confident in a lot of ways when I was growing up, and I was just like, and it wasn't. I just felt like, and I think I was naive. Like I didn't know. So like, oh yeah, I'm going to win this tournament. It's $100,000. I'm just going to win it. Like. And the first, it's like, exactly, it's not that easy, obviously. I figured this out very quickly. But I think that was, as I grew up, I learned from so many different people. I've learned from watching you guys. I've learned from reading. And as things transitioned, and you have YouTube that came along, and then you guys had, there's so many things that the learning curve became so much quicker, where back in the day, you guys didn't have that. Like where I grew up in a day and age.
It's so different now.
Completely
it's so different from when I started. There was no internet, there was no GPS, exactly. No nothing. So it was much different. My inspiration came from a magazine reading about Rick Clunn being a professional bass fisherman. I was 10 years old. I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. That's what I want to do. But obviously, I had to learn just from trial and error on the water, reading Bassmaster back in the day, and then Western Bass magazines from the West Coast. But Indiana kid. Now, so obviously you've had your career in a short amount of time has been impeccable. The amount of trophies and titles that you have at your age is awesome. I'm proud of that. This is gonna be the tougher part, is that you didn't have a lot of friends out here starting out.
Oh yeah, I mean I can't.
You, and I'll be one of the first ones to admit, it's like, who's this little punk?
Yeah.
How did it feel being the bad boy, so to speak, of the tour for a while?
Well, I felt like for me, it just came to the point where I came off to where I had a chip on my shoulder. Okay, so and that was something that negativity that drove me to work harder. So every bit of energy that somebody put into it negative, that made me want to work harder. That made me want, and I was like, fine, you can be upset, you can be mad, that's fine. I'm gonna outwork you. I'm gonna fish harder. I'm gonna be smarter about it, and that's just kind of how it's gonna be. And so ultimately that was my biggest thing. So but then as I looked at things, I'm like, all right, what am I? And it was a lot of it just being young. I'm out here 22, 23 years old. You learn to you pull up in front of somebody, you're like, whatever, man, I'm like 100 yards. That's not the way you need to act. You know, so you just got to
think. I did the same thing. So
you know
I
what I'm
totally
saying?
get
So
it, yeah.
you think, you realize as you start, the decisions you make, they reflect on your image. But ultimately, when you're 22, 23, 24 years old, you don't think of that. You don't think things through as much, and you start to mature. And for me, of course, it was a big deal for me to start to slow down, have a family, realize that I was not only feeding, working out for myself, but also for my wife and for my little girl. That was a huge deal. But I think it just also was just a maturity thing. It just takes time. And I think a lot of it also is like when you have success at a young age, instantly there's a lot of people that either want to be like, wow, awesome, or a lot of hate. And just how it is. You have one or the other.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys, I mean, we compete on tour with that, they're going to badmouth you, they're going to badmouth me, but jealousy is an evil thing. And they want to speculate that you're doing something wrong just because they got beat.
Absolutely.
So
it's easier to look and say, okay, hey, give me an excuse. Well, this happened, I heard about this, and it makes it easier to accept. And at the end of the day, when you were winning all them tournaments, at the end of the day, you're just like, you know what? Hats off to you, Skeet. You crushed them. You were on it. You were the best that week, hands down. And that's just how it is. When you're out here competing at this level, it's not like, hey man, go over there and fish that. Like you gotta be the best the whole week. There's so much strategy that goes into every ounce of your decisions, of your decision making through practice, through the tournament, through map study, through everything. And see, that's the thing that people don't realize. You get to see us come out here and compete out here on the Bass Pro Tour, but ultimately, they don't see the behind the scenes as much.
Yeah, and that's where I think you've proven yourself, and that's how I made my career last as long as I have, is that the amount of the work that we put into it behind the scenes is what allows you to be successful and maintain a long-term career. So, I mean, I'm looking at just, I don't know if blue and red, white, and blue would wound up being, but now that's your color.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's your brand. So as my tip to you, whether you change sponsors and all that,
100%.
Stick with that.
That's where my thing. I've always loved the color blue. I always like red and blue and white. I'm like, that was something that I've transitioned. That's a big deal. I've seen you adopt the yellow, the black and yellow, the transition of two. That's a huge, when you see it instantly, you think Ski Reese. There's so much value to that.
It worked.
It
worked. So, switch gears a little bit. Social media, you are absolutely crushing it on social media right now. So, obviously, you came up and you're in that generation now that you grew up in that part of it. Obviously, I'm an old fart essentially for the social media world, but we're still playing in it, and it's part of what we do and sharing our lives with people out there and what we do, educating them, entertaining them. But you have a huge following now, which is fun and for you, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's part of the business now. But I saw something. You have Paul George, superstar NBA, following you. You guys are actually. Do you guys?
Yeah, we're buddies. So I've known Paul.
How did Paul George come into this?
That's sort of crazy. So Paul was played for the Pacers. Yeah. Back in the day when him and LeBron were going at it in the Eastern. I believe it was the Eastern Conference semifinal. It might be I don't know. I think it was the finals. So them and the Pacers were going after it and all that. And so I'm out on one of the lakes in Indiana. And my buddy BJ, which is my good buddy that I grew up fishing with and everything, and he was just like, man, we're fishing out there. We had a ton of crappie, and this guy up on this boat dock was fishing, and he had a big catfish rod, and he's like, man, he said, how you doing? And he looked like another guy who was playing for Pacers, George Hill. It looked like his dad. It looked exactly like him. Like, man, my buddy's like, hey, are you George Hill's dad? And he goes, no, I'm not George Hill's dad. I'm Paul George's dad. And we're like, what, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, we're out here fishing. You catching anything or whatever? So this is like middle of the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, oh, that's cool, man. Nice to meet you. And he's like, here's a card, every time, and like, he's like, we call these crappies, showed him all these crappies. Dude, that's unbelievable. Paul wants to go fishing. He's always wanted to go fishing. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, here's my card. Hit me up sometime. That night, they just got done with the game. Hey, man, how you doing? This is Paul George. Can we go fishing sometime? And I'm like, what? I'm like, no way. So we go the next day. and we just started to become friends. And we're both the same, really close to the same age. He's like, I think he's 30 now, I'm 29, but we were like both like 24.
Except he's old for basketball.
Yes, he
Sorry,
was.
Paul.
But at that point in time, we started to get in a relationship. We had a relationship, friendship, and like we'd go when he was home, when I got home from a tournament or something, I'd go bowling with him. We'd go out, and it was sort of a crazy deal. So like now he's out in LA, and so he plays for the Clippers, and so he has this Paul George Celebrity Fishing Tournament out there every year, and so I'm planning on trying to go out there this year. But it's sort of a cool deal. I mean, it's just sort of like when you get to know somebody, and we were sort of obviously he was a completely different level of like where but it was sort of cool to be able to bring fishing, brought it together. And
you're at the same level as he is. It's a different sport. We just don't have quite as big a fan base.
By millions.
Yeah, and then the paychecks are a little bit different over there.
It was a different deal when I got out. We went out in LA and grabbed a bite to eat. We were actually out with OKC guys, and paparazzi starts popping off photos. I was like, wait a second, bro. Like, time out. Like, this is not.
You don't get
like,
that?
I'm not there.
You don't get
like,
that? That
doesn't
happen?
there. That does not happen in bass fishing. So I'm just like, you're like, what the heck? So that was a dang really cool deal. Just to see that.
Well, what I've learned is that, so I've been around a lot of other athletes of other sports, and we all have a passion for what we do, for all their sports. But in the end, we're all the same. We all cut up the same. They love fishing. We love watching them. They love watching us. So it's fun when you get to be around other people that are excellent at their crafts, and you get to learn a little bit of their mindset behind how they play their sport. Plus, they get to see a little bit of our sport, and because look how many athletes they're always posting pictures of them holding bass somewhere.
100%.
So we have a ton of fans out there. They just we just not quite like they have. But anyways. All right. Well, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time, joining me.
Absolutely,
Get to know you a little bit, one-on-one. Jacob Wheeler, the hottest angler in the country right now. I'm still gunning for him. I got to take him down at some point in time. Hope everybody enjoyed a little one-on-one with them. Make sure you like, subscribe, Skeet Reese Fishing. Maybe you'll get out there and go easy on the old guy this week.
Oh, man. Shoot, I appreciate you having me on, man. Skeet's you're one of the greats, man. It's an honor to be able to have an opportunity to have a conversation with you.
It's all good, man. Keep it up. You're doing the sport good, man.